He's the centre of our family life.
Tending the apple tree planted in memory of her son, a baby who never drew breath.
People say, you must be getting over it now. It's like, no, you don't get over losing a child. The grief, it's always a part of you, it never goes away.
Sarah's son Toby died just minutes before he was born. She and her husband Matt watched horrified as the baby's heartbeat disappeared from the monitor. Waking up from an emergency caesarean, she says the reality sank in.
And then I held him and I remember feeling he was so cold. He shouldn't have been cold. Matt said he felt him warm when he first held him, because they brought him out to Matt very quickly when they realised that they couldn't do anything for him. And Matt held him, and I remember him saying that he felt him go cold, and he tried to keep him warm by cuddling him, and he couldn't. And that was hard. We had a good time with him, a decent quality. They weren't stopping us having him, but it wasn't enough, it never would be. I'd give anything to have just another 5 minutes with him.
That's something you never anticipate doing, is it?
After months preparing for his birth, Sarah and her husband were faced with getting ready for Toby's funeral.
We had a small funeral with just 8 people there with him. And that was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, was walk out, leaving him. Because no mum should ever have to leave her son or her daughter, her child, her baby, to do that, to go on that journey of their own.
It was found Toby's growth had been restricted after Sarah's placenta failed. She's convinced it should have been spotted by a midwife in the days running up to his death, and says concerns she raised were brushed aside.
I was like, something's wrong. I don't know what, but something's wrong. And I was begging to be induced. I stated that I was not happy to be left until I was 12 days overdue. I said that to my GP, I said it to midwife, and I was still left.
The hospital carried out an internal investigation. She and her husband were not asked to take part, which according to the stillbirth charity SANS is not unusual. Latest figures show around 3,500 babies are stillborn every year. In a survey of bereaved parents, just under a third were told the hospital was reviewing their baby's death. Of those, only 34% said they were invited to take part, and only half said they were satisfied with the process.
Too many women are told that their concerns are unfounded and sent home, only for their baby to die soon afterwards.
The MP Patricia Gibson speaks from bitter personal experience. After 5 years of fertility treatment and a textbook pregnancy, she went into hospital the day the baby was due with crippling pain. Initially turned away, she went back, was given morphine, put to bed and left.
Looking back on it, you know, there are moments when I reproach myself for not asking more questions. But at the time, because I'd been made to feel like a burden, because I was being made to feel that I was giving the nursing staff work that was really, they were too busy to deal with this, and why couldn't I just do what I was told and go home and be quiet? I just went along with what they were telling me to do, and I didn't ask perhaps the questions that I should have asked, and that, you know, I live with that.
And that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
When she was eventually seen by a doctor, she was told her baby had died. Despite asking for a caesarean, the hospital tried to induce labour. After 48 hours, Patricia's liver ruptured and she too nearly died. When she finally regained consciousness, she saw her son Kenneth for the first and only time.
They brought the baby in and it was awful. It was lovely, it was perfect. Sorry. He looked like he was sleeping. You would never have thought that this baby was dead. He just, you know, he had a wee glow about his face, and he was a big boy. I have to say, you know, I've always thought that when babies are born, they all look pretty much the same. But he had a head of hair, and he was a spitting image of his father. I've never seen a baby who looked so much like its father. And it just seemed such a waste.
So what, in essence, does this independent report say that you had commissioned?
After waiting 2 years for an investigation promised by the hospital, Patricia commissioned independent specialists who found that her baby's death was caused by a series of errors and could have been avoided. Eventually, the health board in Scotland settled out of court, but Patricia says it's time all stillbirths were investigated independently by a coroner.
Health boards and hospital trusts and hospitals need to be open about the failings. If failings have taken place, they need to be open about them, because I don't see how else you can improve if there's a culture of cover-up and secrecy when mistakes have been made.
Sarah's son would be 5 now, Patricia's 7 tomorrow. Both women would like to see better care and understanding for parents of stillborn babies, mothers to children who will never grow up, but who will always be remembered.
If anyone mentions him, it just makes my heart skip a beat. It's like someone remembers him, someone's thinking about him.
I've still got his room, so it's a room, if you like, frozen in time, but I won't let it become a shrine, because he's not in that room. You know, he's up here and he's in our hearts, and but I just haven't get around to dealing with it because it seems so final, you know. But I suppose I'll deal with it eventually, in my own time.